Hello everyone. So today I'm going to take you through a little video about some rehab and Pilates exercises that are about the knee, the function of the knee health, and in particular anyone that experiences pain around the knee that is commonly known or referred to as patella tracking or patellofemoral syndrome. So let's just have a little chat about all of the different factors that can contribute to this. So the most common thing that a lot of therapists and doctors will tell you is that the cause of the pain around that part of the knee is from these lateral muscles of the quads and their attachment to that kneecap actually being a little bit imbalanced. So too much tightness here, too much weakness in the medial quad, and then that tightness on that lateral side pulls the patella slightly laterally, and then we're getting a bit of irritation under the patella in that joint because the patella shifts across to an area that is not in the natural groove that it's designed to slide and glide in, where it's particularly under load. So if you experience pain, particularly when you're sort of going downstairs, loading through those quads on the way down, anything where you're going knees over the toes, that if that recreates the pain, then this can potentially be something that you might be experiencing biomechanically. Now, upon other research, there is a lot of other factors that can contribute. So there have been studies that show that pulling can eventuate in no pain in some people if they do have that sort of laterally displaced patella during functional movement. Some people even kind of displace more towards the medial side, so more towards the inside. So it's just depending on a number of other factors. So we don't really just want to focus on the quad here when we think about the free movement without irritation of that patella. So what we also want to think about is through the feet and through the hips here. So I'm going to cover all of that throughout this video. I'm going to add little timestamps. So if you're feeling more drawn to particular exercises and think once I explain them, oh, I do that, or I've been told I do that by a therapist, then you might want to jump through to the more applicable ones for you. But a lot of these exercises are great for general proprioception and kinetic chain movements, so they can benefit anyone really. All right, so to start off with, I'm just going to get down on the mat. You can do this sitting on the couch or on a chair as well. But the first thing I'm going to do is just have a feel through my knees. And all I'm going to do is kind of wiggle my patella side to side. So this is the very first thing that I would recommend to patients and my Pilates clients alike if they're experiencing this kind of pain. So you want to just try and think of moving it side to side and up and down. So sometimes we get pulling from the quads if we're weak in the hammies and a lot more quad dominant. We get that pulling of the patella up. And that can also create a little bit of intense pressure. So we want to make sure we're moving that patella around just to make sure all of those really close attachments to it are mobilized before we get started there. So I'm going to do that on both sides. So it's good to do these things on both sides, even to just be able to compare one side to the other if things feel different. So for me just now, I've had knee surgery on this knee, but I tend to find I get a little bit of that patella tracking kind of pain in my right knee because I do tend to weight bear more towards that side. So when I'm moving this kneecap around, I'm getting a little bit more kind of, a little bit of crackling under the joint, also known as crepitus. So it's good to just have a feel of the differences side to side. Now next I would do, if we're thinking of the classic presentation where we're getting that tightness through the outsides of the quads, I'm going to get my roller This is never very glamorous doing this side lying type of exercise. So I get my front foot forwards and I come onto the side of my quad there, and then I just roll up and down that ITB. Now this is pretty nasty, so just take it slow and maybe only do about 20 seconds per little area. You never want to go more than sort of 90 seconds when you're rolling through here. And that's just a typical piece of advice I would give patients and clients, simply because when I'm giving home exercise advice, I can't control, particularly with this kind of release stuff, how sort of gung-ho you're going with it and how much pressure you're putting through there. Some people like to fully side plank and put all their body weight through that roller. That's a little bit intense for me. So just be mindful that if it's not something you're used to, this will be quite uncomfortable. So even keeping that bottom foot on the ground to take a little bit more weight out is useful. And if the wrist's sore, you can come down on that elbow. Just play around with postures. Like I said, it's never one that anyone does in a super glamorous fashion. All right, sliding off that roller. Okay, from here, I'm just going to talk about the hamstrings first. So like I was saying just before about the quads potentially being dominant and pulling up through that kneecap, often when we're really quad dominant, it's because everything we do is in front of us all day, every day. And if we have a desk job or we drive a lot, we do a lot of sitting, everything in our posterior chain switches off, and then we just use our quads for everything. And because everything is in front of us, so the kids or picking up the washing or doing the dishes, everything's in front of us, so we're always tending to be leaning a little bit forwards, and some people kind of just weight bear through the very fronts of their feet, and that means every single thing at the back of that chain will switch off, and you're just supporting yourself through the quads and hip flexors. So we want to try and work on balancing out, making sure we're focusing on the whole cylinder of all the muscles that attach around the knee, and then even looking at biomechanics of the ankle so that we can balance out any pressure that's coming through that knee. So to strengthen the hamstring, first of all, we're just going to go into some little spinal mobility roll up. So we'll start lying on our back. Exhale, flatten the spine, continue lifting up. Big breath in, exhale, re-engage through that core, slowly lowering all the way down, tailbone touches, lifting up. And if you are quite weak through those hamstrings, even this little movement, just by controlling up and down quite slowly, you will probably feel those hamstrings switching on. Let's go for 5 more and getting that lovely articulation through that spine, dropping down vertebrae by vertebrae, keeping knees in line with the hips, so not swaying out, not folding in. 4 more. We've got 3. 2. And last one, lifting up, really focusing on that roll down, keeping the pelvis high until the very last second, releasing there. From here, I'm going to float my left leg to 90-90. We're going to do some single leg work through that hamstring. So we're going to exhale, lift straight up through those hips. Inhale, roll it all the way down. Exhale, lift up. Inhale, roll it down. Tummy on as you lift, hips are level, keep the hips level. As we roll, articulate that spine vertebrae by vertebrae down. We're here for 5 more. And if you want to exaggerate this through the hammy even more, you can come onto the heel there. If you're not super confident through that ankle, stay on that flat foot. We've got 3. Roll it down, so upper spine, middle spine, lower spine, tailbone. 2 more. Roll it down. And last one. Last one there. Beautiful. Rolling down. Lower down. You might want to stretch that thigh into the chest there for a moment. Left foot down, right leg up. So we always do both sides. It gives us that good little benchmark. If one side's weaker than the other, we can see these asymmetries that we may need to work on. Exhale, lifting up and lower down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, roll down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Inhale, lower. Great job. We got 5 more. Now I feel a lot weaker on that left side, a little bit less stable, using my abs a little bit more here. Lifting up, roll it down. Focus on that control on the way down. So we're up in 1, down in 3, 2, 1. 2 more. Up for 1, down in 3, 2, 1. Last one. Up for 1, down in 3, 2, 1. Great job. Little hug of those knees into the chest there. Lovely work. So that's just warming up, a little bit of glute max and hamstring focus. Okay, so from here, we're going to come into a little seated exercise. So we'll either be sitting with legs out long here, but what I want you to really focus on is sitting up nice and tall. So you can have your hands just behind you here, but you're not wanting to lean back like this, because when we're doing our exercise, we don't want our hip flexor to be switching on and overcompensating. And if we're sitting kind of bolt upright, that will decrease the ability of that hip flexor to switch on. Now, I am aware that if some of us are a little bit less flexy than others, that's not going to be really possible without kind of slumping the back, or it's just not really going to be possible for you to comfortably sit up, particularly if hamstrings are really tight. So our alternative, our modification, is to do this sitting in a chair. Okay, so I'll show you a set of both, just alternating. So this exercise is to target our strength of our quads whilst they're not lengthening or shortening. So they're not changing in length, it's just a sustained contraction, isometric contraction and fitness through there. And in doing this in a couple of different ways, we can focus on strengthening the medial side of the quads, which can help if those lateral parts of the quads are pulling on that patella. All right, so from there, we're just going to inhale to prepare, exhale, hover that heel. We're holding for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down. I don't do these anywhere near enough, so I'm going to struggle along with you. All right, next set, left side. Coming up. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. Trying to sit up. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down. Little wriggle, little whack through there if you need. Now, if you were on the ground just for that set, stay on the ground. I'm just coming up onto the chair to make sure that everyone can see that this can be easily done in a chair as well, and it doesn't change the efficacy. Okay, from here, we're going to add a little turnout. Now, on the chair, the trick is you're holding up, but you also want to try and lift that thigh bone off the chair, so that you're not just sort of focusing on resting that thigh bone on the chair and straightening the knee. Otherwise, we're not quite going to get the exact same amount of work. So there is a little cheat you can do in the chair, but I implore you, sit up nice and tall, and we're going to try and lift the very edge of that thigh bone off the seat. So this time we're turning the foot out slightly, lifting, holding here for 10, 9, drawing to the tummy, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down. Little shimmy if you need. Little turn out through that heel. Sitting up nice and tall. We extend, little lift off. We're here for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down, little whack through there, and I'm going to finish off on the floor with everyone else. So coming back down. All right, last little one here. We're going to do 2 sets of circles. So my right leg is coming up, little circles for 8, 7, 6, 5, trying to sit up tall, 4, 3, 2, 1, don't mind the face. It's not as simple as it may seem. All right, left leg. We're here for 8, 7, 6, 5, drawing in, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down, that was getting a little bit bitey there. So you'll feel sometimes that these muscles will cramp on you doing this because we just don't have a lot of fitness doing these types of exercises. Now we're going to do the same thing turned out. So a little turn out through the right foot, lift up, circles outwards, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down, other side, lifting up, lift, little circles for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower it down. Little whack through there. Great job. All right, from here, we'll give those quads a little rest. And we are going to talk about our little feet and ankles. So, with our feet, what else can have effect through the knees and the tracking of the knees is if we roll the feet out, that's going to put more force through this outside part of the legs, and we're going to get just different biomechanics coming through the knee. And then if we pronate, so if we roll the feet in towards that big toe, see how my knees go into more of a, I'm just naturally a little bit knock-kneed anyway, but see if I pronate in, and I do pronate when I walk, my knees come in a bit more. So even just that little pronation can cause these outside attachments to kind of overcompensate, trying to pull me back into alignment. And then that can just straight away, as soon as I drop there, because this is kind of floating around, that pulling on that outside straight away will have an effect of that alignment through that patella. So we want to talk about our foot and ankle proprioception. So how I like to describe this to people is the ball of your foot, which is here, where your metatarsals are, where your toes attach to your foot. So we've got 5 across here. Now I want you to think of a triangle of pressure. So center of your heel, right where the big toe attaches to the foot in that little ball, and then where the pinky toe attaches. So you want even pressure between all of those 3 points in that triangle. So have a little feel, give yourself that little tactile feedback through that foot first. And then all I'm going to get you to do to start off with, starting on the right foot, feel that pressure. So you're really sort of sinking, front of the foot, back of the foot is even. Have a little rock here, forward and back, out, in. Come to that right foot, feel that even pressure. And then we're just going to take our left leg off. And now I'm wanting you to try and keep particularly the front of the foot, even contact right across both sides. Now you've got that chair handy or a wall you can hold on if you feel super, super wobbly, but I want you to think just one little couple of fingertips on the wall so you're not holding yourself or leaning into the wall. And we're just gonna hold here 10 more seconds, really trying to focus on the front of the foot, pressing evenly. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower down. All right, let's go left leg. Same thing, little rock forwards and back. And now really feeling all of those points in that triangle, elevating out of that left hip. So this is great for multiple things here. So we're getting our foot and ankle proprioception, but also our lateral glute stability, which we will do a little bit of work on in side lying in a moment, and I'll discuss how that affects the knee. So I'm a lot more wobbly on this side because it is my less dominant side. So I've really got to try and pull back towards that pinky toe because I do want to kind of roll in. And I find switching on through that lateral glute does help here. 10 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, from there, we're coming back to that right leg. Left leg is slightly back. And now all we're gonna do is just stretch. As long as you're not hurting the knee by bringing any load, we're just gonna feel that triangle of pressure, so particularly through the front of the foot, and then increase the load over that foot. Increase the load. Now this is also kind of doubles up as a ankle mobility thing here. So if you've ever had an ankle sprain, this motion, dorsiflexion, or pulling your toes towards your shin, is the first range of motion that you'll lose. So if you've got a lack of that, that can also mean there's a little bit of muscle imbalance because you're not getting that nice flow through the foot and ankle throughout your gait. So you can't sort of really toe off properly if you're not getting that range. So then other muscles have to sort of tap in. So this is kind of a double whammy. We're getting that pressure through the front of the foot, making sure we're getting even weight through big and pinky toes, but also we're stretching through the front of that ankle. All right, that's enough there. Change sides. So just getting that stance, making sure we're not rolling in. All toes should be feeling nice and firm, and then we're going forwards. Forwards. Aim for that knee over second toe there. That's it. So this will just help, and always do these proprioceptive exercises barefoot, completely barefoot, because you're wanting that feedback from the ground. Even socks can decrease that touch sensitivity that you get. Okay. From there, I'm just going to grab my chair just in case I need it for a little bit of balance. I'm coming back to my right foot, and this time just hovering the left. Get that triangle of pressure. Using this for a bit of balance, I'm just coming into a little single leg squat. Keeping that pressure through that whole triangle, aiming for knee over second toe. Now, of course, if your knee is super irritated and this is not going to be a great move for you, just stick with the first two here. But hopefully after loosening off a few little things, you can cope with a little, sort of just a quarter squat. Not a full squat. Not a pistol squat, that's for sure. That's for damn sure. All right, 2 more. And last one. Changing sides, bring the other leg up. And then we lower. And lift. Lower. Body weight upright. Lower. Keeping even from big toe to little toe. We've got 3, 2, and last one. Lovely work. All right, from here, so that's the foot and ankle covered. So from here, I just want to talk about doing some exercises because so many of our quad exercises focus on shortening of the quad. So a lot of our knee extension coming up from our lunges and things like that. And so I'm just going to show you a couple of eccentric quad exercises that take the glutes out of it. So it just means we're relying on those quads to elongate, lengthen and strengthen. So while we're doing our shortening things, that's really great because it is the function of the quads to extend the knee. But we also want the quads to have that length under load as well. And then that in itself, positionally, if they're not just strong in the shortening phase, that will give that patella that extra kind of wiggle room, so to speak. Okay, so we're just gonna come up, and this is an exercise I'm not great at, so you'll see, you know, if you sort of Google a thigh stretch exercise, you'll see some people doing the full matrix and shoulders nearly touching the ground. That is not me. So this will be quite accessible movement. Again, if the kneeling is no good for you, you can pop a cushion under the knees, or if it's really not gonna work, then we can skip over this exercise. If you're super, super irritated, particularly around that tendon, kneeling's not gonna be a great one for you today. So just leave this one out and skip over to the next one. So we're gonna cross arms across shoulders. We're up nice and tall, belly button to spine. Think shoulders, hips, and knees, not the other way, in one straight line. So from here, inhale to prepare, exhale, draw in through that belly, and we're leaning back. Inhale to lift. Just go as far as you feel comfortable without extending through the spine. So that's why we switch on through the tummy on that exhale. Exhale, reach back. Inhale, come up. Exhale, reach back. Inhale, lift up. Drawing in through that belly. We're here for 5. 4. 3. 2. And last one. And lowering down there, little whack through those. So you can add on from there by adding a little hold back, maybe a twist coming up, or just holding it back for longer and then lifting. And then once you get better at those, obviously you can increase that range because you'll find you're not panicking and switching the quads on too soon. So from here, we're gonna go into some side-lying glute work. Now, these glutes here, these side lateral glutes, they're your stabilizers of your hip. So our typical test would be a single leg lift. And if you drop through the hip to the side, that means that side of the glute is weak. Okay? So that's why we need to work these. Keeps the pelvis in a better alignment when you're walking. If they're weak, you get this little shimmy through the hips, and think about what that's doing to all those muscle attachments around the knees. If you're shimmying side to side, you're losing all that force sideways, and then the muscles around that kneecap are basically having a tug of war with that kneecap. Whereas if we've got them switching on, most of our force, I should say, is going forwards, and we get minimal shifting side to side through the kneecap. Okay, so just a couple of little exercises of side-lying glutes. Anyone who is used to these, they may want to add a band, anything like that. We're starting off heel in line with the bottom, shoulders in line with the hips, Little lift under the waist, so we're lengthening our top side of our waist long, not sinking into the mat there. So heels in line with bottom, and we're just lifting that top knee and lowering, keeping top hip directly over underneath hip. Exhale, lift. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lifting up. Inhale to lower. Let's go here for 5, 4. We've got 3, 2, and last one. Lower down. Next set, we're going to lift knee and ankle to hip height and lower. Lift and lower. Exhale, lift and lower. 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one. Lowering all the way down, lengthen that leg long in line with the body, a little turn down, toes slightly lower than heel, and we lift and lower. Lift and lower. Obviously you can take breaks between these exercises, and you can go a couple more if you're finding this a little bit easier. Really making sure keeping that top hip stacked directly over the underneath hip, drawing in through that tummy, shoulder. If you're checking in with the hip with that top hand, shoulder is melting away from the ear. We're here for 4. Feel that length through the heel. 3, 2, and last one. Bringing it in, a little tap out. Now I'm going to get you to repeat on the other side, but for the video's sake, I'm going to keep powering through because we don't want this to get too boring for everyone. And so the last area that I really want you to focus on is our adductors. So we've done quads, we've rolled here, we've done hamstrings, glutes. Now we need to do through here. So any part of the body that you think of the muscle attachments. You're like, okay, what attaches around here? What can contribute to here? Treat it like a cylinder. Don't just focus on one part. Make sure you address all areas. So to address our adductors here, this is also going to combine and add a little bit more focus through those medial quads. So this is a bit of a double whammy. We're going to take those feet nice and wide, little turn out through the toes. So not a big turn out, just a little turn out. If you're a little bit sore through the knees, this little turn out should help with that alignment so that you're not feeling that sort of compression through the kneecap here. So from here, we're just going to be lowering wide and lifting. Inhale, lower, exhale, lift. So really focus on squeezing those thighs as you come up. Body weight is upright as if you're sliding the back of your shoulders and back of your hips up against a wall. So I'm not coming forwards. I'm up nice and tall and lifting. So it's going to stretch those adductors, but also we're working them against gravity to help lift us. So this also gets a little bit around through the hamstrings, and you'll feel it a little bit in that medial quad too, which is great for that alignment if that's where we're weak. Inhale, lower, exhale, lift. 5, 4, we've got 3, 2, and last one, hold it down, little pulses, up an inch, down an inch. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, last one, all the way up there. We're going to lift our right heel slightly, lower down, halfway lift, lower, halfway lift, getting that right side adductor working. Doesn't have to be a huge lift through that heel, drawing in through that tummy still. As soon as you stick your bum out here, you're going to lose that sensation in that inside thigh. So check in with that body. halfway up and down, halfway up and down. We're here for 4, 3, 2, 1. Little pulses, up an inch, down an inch for 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. Lifting up, lower that heel. Let's lift that left heel, last side. Lower down, halfway up, down, halfway up. Drawing in through that tummy, think of a little tuck under of your pelvis, so pubic bone forwards. That will stop that temptation to stick that bottom out behind you. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and last one. Little pulses there. Up an inch, down an inch for 4, 3, 2, last one. Lifting all the way up. Little toe heel, heel toe in. Little shake out through those legs. All right, so we've got to go through some stretches now. So we're going to do quad stretch both sides. I'm going to use my chair. Now, grabbing onto that ankle if you have that range available. If not, you can always grab a strap and hook it around the foot just so that you can pull it up if you don't have quite that range that we need to get that foot. So from here, see how my heel is not touching my bottom? I want you to feel the start of a stretch at the front of the thigh and then tuck the tailbone under, push the pubic bone forwards. So it's a little movement this way of the pelvis. So like you're squeezing your glutes to tuck under, drawing in through those lower abs. That's going to increase that stretch at the front of the thigh. And then we're not really squashing all of those ligaments around our knee. 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower. Let's go other side. Maybe you can see my pelvis a little better from this side. So softness through the knee, not squashing heel to bottom. Up nice and tall so we're not hinging through those hips. Up nice and tall, then little tuck under. Tailbone scoops under, so that's that rotation this way. And then that should really increase that stretch through that thigh. We're here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lowering down. All right, I'm gonna come back to my mat. And we're gonna have a little lie down finally. And from there, all I'm gonna do is take my knee, bring it across the body there. And from there, I'm getting a nice stretch through my glute max. And for some of you, if you're a little bit more flexible, you might be able to bring that knee all the way down to the ground and get that really big rotation, but I'm just focusing on where I'm feeling a stretch in that glute there. Other arm reaches out wide as your little counterbalance. Ooh, got a fly joining us. And coming back through center, bending that leg. Other leg coming over. Now, obviously, if any rotation things are bothering you through that back, this may not be the stretch for you today. That's fine. You can also do it in a seated position by pulling your leg towards you. So like this. But you still get that rotation, so it just depends how you're feeling through that back. All right, back to our first leg. Bring that leg across the opposite knee, ankle across knee, elbow goes wide, And you can either come up on that heel if that's enough of a stretch for you, otherwise grab around the back of that hamstring, not over the tibia because then you're squashing through the knee joint, behind the hamstring, calf over the top, and then I get my stretch going and then I feel myself lengthen my spine. So then that increases that stretch right in that external rotator glute area. And then we can take a little rock side to side here. Lowering down, other leg down, bringing it across. And back to that hamstring. Ooh, a lot tighter on this side for me. So this is why we always do both sides. So just because one side's a little bit better doesn't mean that it doesn't need a stretch or it doesn't need the work. It also creates mirror neurons in our brain, so then our brain can draw comparisons from our more functional side and then recreate those same patterns in the other side of our body, which is pretty awesome. Okay, little rock. And flatten that foot, unhooking, coming onto the side and lifting up. And we are all done with our Rehab Pilates exercises for knee health, specifically patella tracking issues. Please let me know how you went, and if you have any comments or feedback, just let me know, or any requests for other injuries you want me to cover. Thanks so much for joining.